difficult for him to do anything.
Yeah, shot. He made it when we come back and a chance to regain the lead. Yeah, weren't sure he was going to get the shot off in time. The first two for Paul. Surprisingly, was eliminated with Paul George early. I thought he might be a finalist against Shumpert. Paul George, 27 points and 8 rebounds tonight. The first time All-Star. George driving.
Holliston doing a good job denying Augustine that time.
Drive by Paul George, gets to the rim and kid Gilchrist. Now Paul George, jumper good.
For Paul George, he deserves a ton of credit.
Here's Paul again for three.
To love to see just a little bit of a brush screen there.
Hill gets rid of it, and George about a 30-footer.
The offensive end here for the Pacers in the fourth.
And there is the activity. The steal by George.
Keeps it alive.
Oh, what a pass. And then you can see coming in, Paul George has it one.
Save.
But he did a really good job getting his hand back on the ball.
And a key by Stevenson and George. Here's Paul on the baseline.
Picked it off. Smith back. Here's George accelerating. Oh, what a for points and a half by the Knicks, and they are headed to that. Hill's pass deflected. Shot clock to 3. This is George.
Get into a routine. You talked about him for high 37 points.
And this is George on the steal. And George on the drop.
Down past the Chandler.
Nice move by George. The steal by George. Smith back. George. Shot clock down to 5. George with the step.
Now that is very unlike. Here's a jump shot. Hansbrough. Paul George, his 3, good, and play 10 of their next 11 on the road as Paul drills. Oh, here comes Indiana and Paul George. Splits the defense and late. It's smaller. Here's Paul George and his shot.
Those little jab fakes.
And there's Paul.
By Thaddeus Young, we talked about his athleticism. Paul George finds him.
That gave the 76ers the lead, but Paul George, another solid game. Paul George, a 3, it's good!
Looking to get the ball into the post. Can't get it into Roy Hibbert.
Now Hibbert out to Paul George for his 3rd 3 and Ashe. Here's Paul George again. Here's West out to Paul George. Is it 3? Is it 4? Beverly is a rookie out of Arkansas. Step back jumper by Paul. Starter this year for the Rockets. Delfino tried to pick the pocket of Paul George. Fades. Score.
Monday at 2. What can fans expect?
Well, they
hot in the first half. You got to give the advantage to Houston.
Paul George has not. Shusteen. Paul George, second half points out to Paul. Here's a jumper. First going back to the bench. Jan Mahimi is in, and here's Paul again. Here's a long, deep 3. Ahead now to Paul George against Wade.
Clear contact by Wade. George again.
Now Paul George, free throw line, jumper.
Shoulders on Mahimi, nothing he can do about it.
Here's a 3. Paul.
You can see Paul George is confident. He's begging for the ball.
Shot clock, 3.
Oh, good move. Good move with Paul George. Watch him right here. Head and shoulders, and you can see right there.
And Paul George with a terrific second half win. He has players. And here's Paul George, another 3. 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 behind it. Now here's Paul George.
Really good read.
Here's Paul George, a 3. Out of high school, Josh Smith, Lou Williams, and Deshaun Stevenson. Paul George inside, just.
You can see he got forward, goes baseline, and he lifts.
Before earlier this year, where they were down 27, and he hit 8.
To get a good look at a 3, kind of let that one go. So
All-Star. Here's Paul George, another 3.
Do you know who the other major recruit was? Jim Cruz at Evansville. It'll work. Yeah, use the pick. Yeah, he's got
the kind of offense he put up when he was a Phoenix Sun. Here is George, a 3. It's good.
He may be going away from the ball.
And here's Paul, another 3. And then a 3-year standout at IUPUI, and a 3 by West.
And a better pass. Leads it because Felton jumps up and he's able to throw the ball and get it where only Paul George. He knows what he does well and sticks with it.
Here's Paul George, goes right around Shumpert inside and scores. Loose ball. Here comes Paul. Rebound.
You got time. Oh my goodness.
Now Stoudemire defends, and Paul will take the three. Time greats. And here's Paul George.
The majority of their scoring comes from the perimeter, so that's an area that Indiana tips.
And April right through the hands of Gordon as George the steal. Cleveland and the Lakers. He averaged 11 points per game, and here's Paul Wright, averaged 9 a game. Indiana getting up, and here comes Paul again. Takes it right at Walker and got him.
At the rim, but the smaller defender, Kemba Walker, got him on his heels. Draws the contact.
Two very dissatisfying overtime home losses. This is the way.
That personal rivalry dates back to the 2008 playoffs.
Yeah.
If you want it, you have to go and get it.
Another foul on Marion makes it percent for the year. Until January the 12th, at least get above 40 and stay above 40. Paul George. You got Orlando Johnson in the backcourt as well. Ford in to shoot. Down the lane, and he'll get all the way to the...
George weaving his way in the lane, banks it in. He'll head to the free throw line. 33 first quarter points for two-handed slam. George driving contact and the foul. George right to the rim, and Petro committed the foul.
Paul George versus Kyle Korver. Korver had it blocked by George. George breaks out. George to the rim, and he's fouled. Chance at a three-point play. Korver didn't get enough of him, and George is headed to the line.
We highlighted Paul George.
Now he's going to see major minutes with Josh Smith in foul trouble. George thought about the three instead. The pull-up pop. He's got it.
Glimpse of him being able to prove it this year. He's just exploded. We talked about Paul George there. They move well. They got to get more of that.
George slashing to the rim, fakes out Smith, and that Smith has 2 fouls. He got him on the pump fake, and then Smith backed off. George gets him.
I think they got to go back to man-to-man because they're giving up some wide open.
Physical presence. Lob and slam. It's Hill on a special delivery for Paul George up top.
Great play setup.
After the brawl with Detroit, but this team is so likable.
The last two, and then also a great closeout. Paul George, can he catch up?
He does. Korver trying to recover. George! Paul George gets the bucket.
How good was that iron? He had nowhere to go.
Defended by Deshaun Stevenson. George contested. He hit.
Jump shot. What's unique about this lineup going big? Not only did it have some size in the front court, beautiful move by Paul George, but the Hawks have 2 point guards that can make plays off the dribble off of Lance Stevenson. They can knock down some shots.
Problem is you have Teague George on a follow-away jump.
Although he had the 5 assists and didn't turn it over.
Oh, George slips the screen. He's wide open. Hill lasers in a pass. And George is 5 for 5, has 11.
That's great eye contact between George.
17 a game during the regular season. Here's George. Just stands.
Putting a little front on it.
Splitting a double team Paul George with a kick-out pass. George Hill to shoot. They've had a lot of possessions here in this quarter. Go down to the end of the clock. This month.
A lot better, and as a result, he's getting results.
Here comes George. George Hill. That's with a rebound. Opportunity to run 4-on-2. It's the focal point of the offense, and with him being out for Korver. Korver, his first 3 made. Hibbert, deep post position. 7 on the clock. George to Hibbert. Hibbert.
But he did. It was just a hesitation on his part. They opened up the lane to the basket. He took advantage.
Stevenson. George. Manola pass to Green.
We've got to be more aggressive getting to the basket.
Hibbert spinning.
Atlanta, 10 turnovers, 14 fouls. George on a kick out. Augustine. Got it! George against Stevenson. Pendergraft. Hard screen. Stevenson goes down. Green fires. He's got it. He obviously sees something he likes.
George crowded, gives to Hibbert. Oh, a solid screen. They double him. Hibbert pops.
He is a special player. People don't understand his impact on the game. He does so much. He talks about shooting the basketball extremely well from the field, rebounding the basketball, doing a good job, even facilitating on this last play to DJ.